Retail workers of Reddit, what's the best thing you've ever had a customer come up to you and say? Working a late shift at a local hardware store in Canada, a man with blood all over his shirt ran at me and demands what can I use to get blood out of carpet. Shocked, I pointed to the cleaning aisle. He grabbed the first thing he could see, threw a $20 at me and ran out the door. To this day I'm still convinced I'm an accessory to murder. I worked at a gas station for a while, which had an attached car wash. It was Labor Day, the crowds were thick, the weather was nice, and we were busting our butts. Washing 50 cars an hour is back-breaking work, and leaves you sweaty and covered in car soap scum. 3 of us worked the car wash, a prepper and 2 dryers. Usually we got tips, about $1 per person. Nothing great, but an extra $20.30 never hurt anyone. Anyway, this guy comes through the line, and we recognize him. He's got a nice Mercedes and came through pretty regularly, about once every 2 weeks. When we finished his car, he handed me an envelope and said, "You guys deserve this. You work hard and that should be rewarded." Inside were $3 100 bills, $3.15 gift cards to Blockbuster, and a thank you card. We were floored. We also probably spent the next 2 months working harder than ever, partly to make sure we deserved it, and partly to see if it would happen again. Upvote for making sure you deserved it. I was 17, working in a grocery store, looking glum while stocking cheese, when an old man dressed all in black walked up to me. He noticed the expression on my face. He told me that I shouldn't frown all the time, that I should make the most of what I have, that I have a lot left. He told me that no matter what was bad in my life, I would always have something happy, and that I should think about that. Then he said, "I lost my wife. Thanks for talking with me," and then walked away. I was a cashier at a grocery store and I had a customer who complained about every single thing. That price is wrong, that's not the right kind of tomatoes, the grains in this sugar used to be smaller. Now they are too big, I don't like having to select English. Finally, the woman leaves and I'm upset and a bit flustered. The next customer in line is a sweet old lady and she smiles and says, "Honey, there are 2 types of people in this world. Those that make your day better when they arrive and those that make your day better when you watch their butt leave." As long as I worked in retail, I never forgot that quote. Nothing worse than when the dang sugar conglomerates change the size of the fricking grains. Few things pee me off more. My normal greeting for a customer is "Hello, how are you today?" I find it less awkward than silence. I had been using this when I was about 16 years old and working at a garden center. One day I greeted a customer as usual, but he immediately demanded to see my manager. Confused and scared, I called my manager to the front expecting to get in trouble for something. Turns out, the guy freaked out about how happy he was to have the youth of America still using friendly customer service and showing interest in their customers. This guy demanded to my manager that I get a raise and also slipped me a huge tip under the table. Ever since then, I smile and greet everyone. Well, Clementine, it's nice to know that you are in fact a darling. Years ago I had just moved to North Carolina and was working for Best Buy in Raleigh. A customer rushed up to me and asked me, "Do you know if there is a time machine nearby?" I blinked at him and asked, "What year are you from?" "What else do you ask in that situation?" He looked at me like I was a complete fool and rushed off. I was kinda freaked out and mentioned this to a coworker. He pointed out that there was a chain of ATM machines called Time Take Your Money Everywhere that was fairly common in the region. I'm sure the guy tells the story of the idiot at Best Buy to this day. I work in a clothing store. "Can you please get me this tank top in a size medium?" I would, but I don't want to mess up your piles. "Bless you, kind soul, bless you." When I have a customer say that they don't want to mess up my piles, I always assure them it's fine, but inside I'm crying tears of joy. This actually happened just a few days ago. I was at work, contacting customers, when I see a guy looking confused by the blank DVDs. So I walked over to him and asked if he needed help. He looked me up and down first before responding and then asked where the printable DVDs were. This dude sounded exactly like Denzel Washington. Spot on. I pointed at the only package we carry and he responded with, "Oh, I see. It says it right there." Man, if I could read, I'd be freaking dangerous. I LOL'd at that one. I gotta use that line somewhere. Third year uni, I spent a summer working at Toys R Us as a bike builder. One busy Saturday morning I was working on a bike in the outdoors section when I heard what sounded like grunting and swearing coming from a few aisles away. This was fairly unusual for a toy store, so I went to investigate. I saw a beautiful woman in her 30s with two adorable children and quickly realized that she had two ATTEs. I didn't want to make a big deal out of her grunting and swearing, so I went back to work on the bike. She eventually came over and asked me for help. I did my best to ignore the disorder and get her whatever she needed. I carried it to the storefront and my heart broke for her as she checked out at the cash register and the clerk gave her the look that I'm sure 99% of the people she encounters on the daily send her way. Like a what the frick is wrong with you? Stop swearing in front of your children. After she finished the transaction, I asked if I could help her out to her car and she managed the first swear-free sentence of our encounter. Thank you. That would be great. Because superwoman I am not. She was my favorite customer of the whole summer. TLDR. My heart broke for a mother with two ATTEs in my toy store on a busy Saturday morning. Former supermarket employee here. My most memorable customer has to be Nostradamus 2. In 3 years at that location I could never tell if he was fricking with me or not. When you gave him his change he would tell me to be not afraid. For the third great war of our time has passed and we are entering an age of peace and enlightenment. Soon humanity will enter a true golden age. Look forward to it. Aside from saying this and occasionally ending that spiel with also devious mind control, he was perfectly lucid and normal. You could ask him about the football or the weather or whatever. Sometimes I wonder if there is such a thing as a prophet, because if so, I'd like it to be that guy. Also devious mind control. This is both lucid and completely true. I worked in a petrol station in the suburbs of my city and a guy came in with a massive backpack and beard, like a traveler. I rang up his items, and I was curious where he was going. Many people go hiking near the mountains close to the city. He said he'd been walking the length of the UK, bottom to top. I was amazed and was asking him questions about how long he's been going, and why he was doing it. Turns out it was just for shoots and gigs. I said wow, that's brilliant. The very best of luck for you finishing it, and gave him a free cup of tea. He looked taken aback at my interest and thanked me. Like his whole way up the country I was the first person to take an interest in him. I'm glad I took a chance to talk to him because he was a really interesting person. That is so British. Oh, you're doing a long walk. Better drink some tea then. When I worked as a cashier at Target, we had these stickers that had a cartoony version of the Target dog sitting in a shopping cart, wearing a seatbelt. We were supposed to give them to kids sitting in the carts, but I just gave them to well-behaved kids. This one girl and her mother came into my line buying school supplies for the following year. The girl was taking all of their stuff out of the cart and handing it to me instead of putting it on the conveyor belt for me, while I was slowly getting buried in a mountain of folders, markers and stickers. I thought it was too cute to ask her to stop. Once I'd scanned and bagged everything, her mother gave her a $100 bill to give to me. When I handed her back the change, I gave her a sticker. I said to her, "That's for being so helpful." As I was helping the next customer, I noticed the mother and daughter scouring through their bag and looking at the receipt. As I was working, I was nervous that I had messed something up. Suddenly, I felt someone tapping me from behind. It was a little girl. She handed me something and said, "That's for being so helpful." I looked into my hand and there was a small sticker that said "Great job." I proudly wore that sticker on my uniform that day and I saved it for over a year. That probably made my short retail career. Oh my god, that's so cute, I can't handle it. Not something someone said in person, but a phone call I once received while working at a large pet store chain. The call went like this: "Hello. Thank you for calling larger pet store chain. How can I help you? My turtle's head is falling off. What do I do?" Long pause. "Like all the way off?" "Yes. It's only on by like a little bit of skin." Pause again as 18-year-old me tries to figure out how the heck to explain this. It's probably dead. Number. It's not. Oh. Well look, here, let me get you a vet's number. They got the number, hung up, and that was it. Never found out what happened to the turtle, either to get that way or what became of their attempts to fix it. We've got no food. We've got no jobs. Our pets' heads are falling off. We were getting slaughtered by management on one particular day. We had all been working hard the past few weeks to get the stock out of the shelves. However, we were receiving stock faster than we could get it out, so it kept piling up. So after being yelled at for being incompetent, despite our best efforts, one of our regulars came up and told them that we provided the best customer service in the shopping center and he has always seen us working very hard. He basically saved us that day. The next time he came in, I almost hugged the guy. It was seriously one of the nicest experiences in my 2 years of retail. After the first sentence I was expecting a farm joke or something. My husband sells specialty cheeses. One day, a middle-aged woman was having a hard time finding some fancy pants buffalo milk cheese, and my husband had just happened to get an order in for it that day. She was thrilled. "You're such a good boy," she said. Then she asked for a few more suggestions for a cheese platter. He put one together for her. She kept saying, "What a good boy," and that sort of thing. My husband, who has a touch of social anxiety, was horrified and had no idea what to do. At the end of the interaction, she rubbed one of his shoulders and said, "You made mommy very happy today," winked, and then left. Once he calmed down, he realized it was probably one of the best, most hilarious interactions he's had at work. You heard me, at my husband sells specialty cheeses. Upvote. You made mommy very happy today. A customer came in and was being really rude and sarcastic, blaming me and the other cashier for things that were clearly out of our control. It was my third day on the job and I was near tears, but I held it together and cranked up the politeness as high as it would go. As he left, 2 cops began talking loudly about how rude he was, clearly meaning for him to hear. Once he was gone, they said to me that even if he thought he was special, there was also a million others out there like him, and not to let it get to me. It really made my day and helped whenever I had to deal with someone who thought they were the best thing since sliced bread and I was the crap on the bottom of their shoe. I work at a water slide and we have to make sure kids don't drag the mats on the ground. So I saw a little guy walking with the mat ends on his shoulders and the other end dragging. I told him to pick up his mat and he turns and calmly says, "It's not a mat, sir. It's a cape. I need it to fight crime." Greatest kid ever. So I work at a call center. I do inbound. So I don't get people who are super angry that I called. I get super angry people calling in because there was something wrong with whatever service they were supposed to be receiving. I was having a pretty bad day when I got this call. This woman swears right away, which is always a bad sign. She sounded like a little old lady, but she was swearing at me. Then she apologizes and tells me she's got the mouth of a sailor. She proceeds to tell me all about her life. I do not know how much, if any, was true, but her story was awesome. She ran away from home and lived with a gang of bikers. No big deal. Because of her I got to spend 2 hours just having a great conversation instead of dealing with angry customers. At any rate, we talked for over 2 hours. One of my longest calls. At the end of the call she says that she wasn't ready yet for us to come out to her house and that she would call back when she was. Awesome. TLDR. Little old lady called me at work to tell me her life story. Ended conversation with, "I called to tell you I'll call you back later." An older man, 60ish, bought me flowers on Valentine's Day and gave them to me in the store. He said he had always ordered them for his wife, and this was his first year without her, and it was too hard not to order them again this year. I accepted graciously and gave him a hug. Note to self, this is how you get free hugs from young women with titties. I was working at a crappy Pizza Hut and this group of guys came in demanding a discount blah blah blah. They were totally unfounded, and my boss wasn't there so I couldn't just defer them to him. Anyways, this guy starts screaming at me that he's with some Muslim students organization and that means he gets a discount, which wasn't true. Blah blah blah. After like 15 minutes they give up and walk out. A cop was right waiting until they left, and came up to me. He said that they had been doing this at a few places. He technically couldn't arrest them for being annoying as shats, but while they were in there yelling at me, he had their car towed for being parked illegally. That cop got free pizza. Oh man, I've worked a few retail jobs, and I only wish I could have gotten away with giving the few people who ever helped me out like that free stuff. I paid for one person's drinks at my job now after he bitched out a customer who was giving me crap all night though. Felt good. posted this before, but I was working one day and give the generic "have a good day." This woman responded with, "You know what? Have a good life. 2. There's too much bad in the world and one day isn't enough. You gotta have a good life." Totally made my day. I once told an old man, "Have a good one." Without missing a beat he said, "I already have a good one. What I need is a long one." Nothing makes you smile like a geriatric making a dong joke. I had a little girl wanting to give me a hug one time and her parents wouldn't let her. I was just being sent to my break and they were my last transaction before it, and as I was walking away and the little girl was crying because she couldn't hug me, she yelled, "I love you, cutest little thing ever equals." My pub serves food and the bar staff double up as waiters as well. I had a big family sat at a table upstairs, and after half an hour of running around for these guys and no comment from most of the family, their 3 little girls decided to start calling me Alex the Lion every time I came near the table. So cute. I work at a fast food joint. Last night a guy came through the drive-thru that was pretty funny, so I told the person at the window to make something free. When she read him the new total, lower than the one I told him, he was like, "I can't keep doing this. I can't keep coming here and getting lied to. I just don't know anymore." It made my night. I was working at Today Morning, an overstock discount store, similar to Marshall's, and also debating whether or not to marry this guy who I hadn't been dating for very long. He asked me to because he had to move across the country and wanted to be together and whatnot. So, this lady comes in. She has no idea about my situation, but she apparently knows one of my co-workers. She starts talking to him and I kind of casually joined the conversation. She started talking about her recent divorce. She ended up saying, "Yes, I got divorced. I knew my husband for 15 years before I married him, only to find out after marrying him that I didn't really know him at all. Yet I know people who have gotten married after knowing each other for 2 weeks who have a long, successful, and happy marriage. The point is, you can know someone for 10 days or 10 years. You'll never know who they really are until you get married, and even then, you might never really know them. Basically, life is short. Take a chance. If you think something is right, go for it. If you end up being wrong, oh well, better than never knowing." I ended up marrying the guy. We're very happy. Thanks, random lady. Moral of the story: everybody should recklessly get married the first chance they get. I bagged groceries at a grocery store. One day a man came in and I asked if he wanted paper or plastic bags. He said, "You pick this time. Because today, baggers can be choosers." I laughed at this. I love terrible puns, especially when they make sense. During college I worked in the children's section of a well-known clothes shop. The managers were not nice people and it was just a horrible environment to work in. One year, on the 23rd of December, the place was manic with people buying outfits for their kids and last-minute presents, etc. Usually there would be 2 people in the kids section at a time, but I was on my own on this particular day. The place looked like a bomb had hit it and there was an endless amount of customers. So I was trying to serve customers and tidy the place up. This guy came in all frantic. He needed outfits for his 2 kids to wear on Christmas Day. So I did my best to help him pick out things they might like, inform him about the sizing system, while trying to serve customers as they came. When the guy came around to paying for all the stuff, of course, the roll for the receipt ran out, so I had to call a manager to bring more in for me. As I said, the managers weren't the nicest of people, so she saw the state of the place and looked at me and then at the customer and said, "I hope she hasn't been keeping you waiting too long," to which this guy replied, "Are you joking? This girl has been fantastic. She's saved my butt by helping me pick out clothes for my kids to wear on Christmas Day. She's been helping and serving other customers while trying to tidy the place up, and she's on her own here." My manager didn't say anything in response, but I wanted to hug him on the spot. And I bet you even fed your Tamagotchi on time. Working at Kroger's my last year of high school, and this old white woman who is clearly drunk got in my line with like a gallon of the most expensive wine we carried. We weren't supposed to sell to people who were obviously already drunk, but quite frankly, I was going away to school in about 3 weeks and I gave no fricks. We finished the transaction and she starts beaming at me like a freaking hyena. She asked me did I have a boyfriend. I said no and smiled. She must have missed the rainbow tattooed on my wrist. And then the conversation went as follows. Girls should have boyfriends to buy them diamonds. My husband is out buying me diamonds right now. At this point, I actually have to look at her and she looks like money. But anyway, me. Oh, well that's very nice. What's the occasion? That he's a lying, cheating workaholic bastard. Me. Well, he sucks then. Cheating on a young fine lady such as yourself. All he cares about is money. Some sobbing starts. I stand there awkwardly. I think I touched her shoulder. It was a weird experience. Take this bracelet. I know it cost a lot of money. You don't have to keep it. I just want to hurt him, you know? I don't know. Me. Sure. And she leaves. I kept it for a week in case she returned wanting her bracelet. On the last day of that week she returned to my line, dripping in some kind of pink stones and has conversation with me. Doesn't ask for it back, but does compliment me on my nice jewelries and strokes my hand. I had it appraised the next day and was $1,675 richer when I left the jewelry store. I probably got dicked on that deal, but I was going to school and needed quick money. I lived on that money my freshman year. Win-win situations are the best. I managed a game stop. The Ghostbusters game was coming out and I was very excited to prepare for the game. Every weekend my store had Ghostbusters weekends. We would dress up as Ghostbusters and have the movies or TV show playing. Well, on one of these weekends, I am behind the counter in my Ghostbusters outfit and a child of about 6 years old had just been purchased a game by his dad. As they were leaving, the little boy turns back around and asks me, "Weren't you? You were in the Ghostbusters movies, right?" The smart guy. It was great. When I was in high school I worked in a Barnes & Noble in the music department. It was the holiday season and we had crazy lines and a lot of the usual cranky holiday shoppers. I had been just standing at the register ringing people out for hours. My next customer was a middle-aged lady who was very kind. She noticed that I had a cold and told me she was going to get me a hot chocolate from the cafe. It was the best hot cocoa I've ever had. It is over 100 degrees Fahrenheit in my city today. I went grocery shopping and this poor lady, maybe in her mid-30s, was outside gathering carts. I bought her a bottle of water and gave it to her. She looked like I had just saved her from death. I worked as a cashier in a motorway branch of Waitrose for about a year. At 8:30 on a Sunday morning a 55-year-old man came in and we got chatting while I was bagging his items. He was complaining about being hungover because it was his father's birthday 92nd the day before and they'd stayed up drinking whiskey until the early hours of the morning. The man told me that his father had recently been in hospital due to a heart murmur and that the doctor had told the father, "Don't worry, you'll be fine. Just, for Christ's sake, cut down on the Viagra." The father was a widower who had married a hot, young, 70-year-old a few months previous, hence the recent Viagra use. TLDR. A customer told me that his 92-year-old father recently married a hot, young, 70-year-old and was told by a doctor, "For Christ's sake, cut down on the Viagra." I've been in the same industry for about 12 years, with 2 different companies. Although I work roughly 25 miles away from where I started, and now for a different employer, I have 5 customers that found me and make the drive to deal with me, specifically. I wear a promotional t-shirt which tells people to ask about some silly errata. One woman walks in, sees it, grins and asks about it. I try to tell her as much as I can, and she can tell I don't know a lot, so we have a little laugh. As she's walking away she told me that I have a fantastic smile and wished me a good night. Lovely lady. I work at a pretty high-end salon, at the front desk. I just started there so I'm still unsure of how my manager likes me, etc. It was a really slow night, just an hour or 2 before closing, so I was doing things like putting away the coffee, cleaning up, etc. This woman comes in with her young daughter, 4 or 5, and the woman is called back to get her hair shampooed. She motions for her daughter to come with her but her daughter doesn't want to. She's transfixed by something on the shelf and immediately throws a fit, not a regular tantrum, but head slamming on the tile floor, etc. Her mom looks really distressed and I tell the mother that I'll watch her daughter. It's fine. The mother looks hesitant but agrees and she goes back. Once the daughter realizes she can stay, she stops screaming. Anyway, I go back to my cleaning, keeping an eye on the girl. She's still just staring at the shelf and finally I go over and point to a few things, like shampoo bottles, etc. When finally I realize I left my feather duster up there. It's one of those ridiculously expensive ostrich feather ones. I point to it and she screeches in joy, and after I wipe down the shelf with it really fast, hand it to her. I guess she watched me do it and proceeds to use the feather duster on every single shelf that she can reach. And she does it meticulously and better than I do. At one point she knocks a bunch of bottles over and her mother comes over, asking if everything's okay, looking worried, but I just laugh and tell her it's fine. I pick them up and the little girl, finally done, comes dusting me off. I wear all black and naturally got dust all over my clothes, but she seemed to enjoy it and I melt anytime a little kid laughs. The woman's done at this point and comes to pay and sees me playing with her daughter, who's laughing manically at the dust getting all over me. She tears up and thanks me profusely. Basically, her daughter has autism and is afraid to take her places, usually because people don't understand. They treat her as if she's a bad parent or her daughter's a bad kid. And it's so rare to see her daughter interact with other people, etc. She leaves, thanking me over and over. After paying her $1,400 bill 00, my manager pulls me aside the next day or so and tells me she called him personally and praised me. Apparently she's a very prominent person in the local community and one of our best customers in TLDR. I now get more hours at work and my boss loves me. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.